This is the 5-3-9 process that you can use and should use to improve tactically on the court on a day-to-day basis. This is just one part of a system that I use to improve players tactically. To see the full system, check out my previous tactical video. Let's get stuck in. Almost every single session you have on court, or at least on a weekly basis, you should be practicing all 5 of these game situations. The most obvious one is both back, which everyone spends too much time in anyway. Then we have serve, return, when you are at the net, and when your opponent is at the net. You can choose the amount of time you spend on each one of these, but they all must be covered. Once you have picked one of the 5 game situations to work on, you are then going to pick one of these 3 to work on within it. You must practice being offensive, rallying, and defensive in all 5 game situations. Both back needs no explanation. Very easy to see how you could practice all 3 of these in this situation. When you are serving, obviously you need to practice being offensive off your serve and your next shot, practicing how to rally off your second serve and the shot after. But maybe you've done a first serve and your opponent has anticipated well and you've served it right into the honeypot for them. They have nailed that ball straight at your feet and you're now on defense. Or you got tight on your second serve and your opponent has found their forehand and all of a sudden you're on defense again. Return of serve, obvious. Get used to being offensive on their second serve, get used to rallying, and get used to being defensive on their first serve and the shot after. When you are at the net, obviously you're going to be offensive with your volleys and your overheads, but you also need to know how to rally the ball when you are transitioning to the net with your first volley or a drive volley. And you also need to know how to defend at the net. An easy example here is the overhead. The overhead is not just an offensive shot. You will have times where they do a decent lob and you are just rallying the ball back in and trying to get back into the net. Or they've done a great lob and you're playing a defensive smash because you are full stretch and now you find yourself back at the baseline. And lastly, when your opponent is at the net, you must know how to be offensive when you've got an easier ball, when to rally and make them play a volley, or when to defend in loads of different ways. Everything I have described are real situations that come up all the time, and there are way more. But players just mostly practice both at the back, little bit of serve and return, and rarely get stuck into volleying, overheads, and drop shots. You must know what to do in all of these situations, because if one of them comes up on a big point, you need to be able to handle it. Now, once you've picked one of the 5, one of the 3, we then go into how you can be offensive, how you can rally, and how you can be defensive. For being offensive, we have taking away time, hitting with precision, and hitting with speed. For rally, we have a higher threshold, which is putting more balls in the court. We have hitting at a higher tempo, which is hitting with a little bit more speed, and precision, which is moving them around using one of the 6 patterns of play. And then defense, we have just about staying in the point. We have neutralize, which means you're going back into rallying. And we have counter offensive, which means you're going from defense into offense. In terms of how to decide where to start within all of this, think about what is the easiest, the most common, and the most important. Also, match chart the player who's in front of you and get some objective data on where they need to improve tactically. Or just think about where you suck the most and start there. The next 3 videos I do will be going into more detail on how to be offensive, rally, and defense. The offensive one will by far and away be the longest and the most important, because that's the one that everyone struggles with. I will be talking about all of this, live Q&A sessions, live podcasts, and so much more in the Online Tennis Academy. So if you want to be on the waiting list and get in early at a discount, subscribe and put your details in the link below.